Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for the ultimate Fortnite meme rankings of 2021. We're going to be going through every single meme strategy that has ever existed in Fortnite, all the way back from Season 1, Chapter 1 to the present day. We're going to be ranking these memes from S tier all the way down to F tier and deciding which ones are the most epic and reliving some of the most epic clips we've done from our memes over the years. So stick around. You are not going to want to miss any of this. All right, guys, here we go. The tier list is here, and it has a lot of very good vintage memes. Now, we've got 30 memes we're going to categorize in total. We couldn't fit every single meme that I've ever done, but honestly, we've got some of the best, some of the stupidest, and some of the downright weirdest in this list. So there's going to be a lot of good stuff to go through. Now, in this video, I'm going to be ranking memes on 3 categories. Number 1, how effective they are. Number 2, how spectacular they are. And number 3, how annoying they are to pull off. And depending on how they rank in those 3 categories, we're going to give them a final score on the list. But all right, there is one that we absolutely have to start off with, and there is going to be a lot of cool things I want to talk about here that I actually reckon 98% of you will not know, and that is sky bases. And you're gonna hear a lot of things right now that I reckon 98% of you did not know about sky bases, how they started, the history of them, and how OG they really are on this channel. So a quick history lesson. Before Battle Royale even existed, I played the Save the World version of Fortnite with my friend Baz. And in that mode, we just wanted to test how high you could build. And we just kept building up and up and up and up until we reached max height. Now, when Battle Royale came out, literally on the 2nd or 3rd day the game mode even existed, I tried doing the same thing. Building up and up and up. And so my very first ever sky base was born. Now, I don't know if I was literally the first person in the world to do it, but I definitely hadn't seen any other YouTube videos doing sky bases at that point. And I think what was so cool about that very first sky base was A, we took it all the way to the final zone. B, I managed to snipe someone off the top of it in my very first skybase attempt ever in Fortnite. And then the ending in classic me style, I ended up trying to shotgun the final guy as I fell, and I missed the shot, which honestly is about as classic Muselk as you can get. Obviously, since that day, we have done a million different versions of skybases. I do them whenever they add a new skybase item. In terms of how epic it looks, it gets an absolute 10 out of 10. In terms of how hard they are to pull off, it's honestly relatively easy. So the effort you have to put in means that that's got a pretty high rank as well. And then in terms of how effective they are, honestly, you wouldn't think sky bases work, but here's the thing, they really do. And regardless, just for how epic sky bases are and how much of a classic meme they absolutely have to be considered, sky bases are S tier, and I will not hear another opinion. All right, next meme we're gonna do is another very, very OG one, but not one that you can currently do in Fortnite Chapter 2, and that is going to be C4 shopping trolleys. Now, for those of you who don't remember, shopping trolleys were literally the first vehicle to ever get added into the game, and the kind of dumb stuff you would do when they first came out was ridiculous. Everything from riding them down giant ramps to pushing your friend around while he's firing a minigun. And one of the memes that we had to try was covering the cart in C4 and trying to roll it towards an enemy to blow them up. Now, here's the thing. This was a very easy meme to set up. C4 was very common, and so were trolleys. But in terms of how effective it was, honestly, I feel like you could not pull this meme off these days. Players are smart, and they would very easily see a C4 trolley rolling towards them. The funny thing is, the one time that I actually attempted this meme with my friend Baz, we rolled the trolley towards someone and got a perfect elimination on them. And honestly, a trolley covered in C4 rolling towards an enemy and blowing them up, also does look kind of cool. But at the end of the day, it's not that effective. It's not the most spectacular meme ever. So I think we're going to have to chuck it down as a C grade Fortnite meme. All right, let's tackle a chapter 2 meme strategy. And that is going to be thunder pumping, which honestly, I almost don't even want to call a meme strat. I feel like the name meme strat kind of implies that it's dumb, it's stupid, and no one would ever do it unless they're just trying to be ridiculous. But the thing is, with thunder pumping, that wasn't the case. Now, if you don't know what a thunder pump is, basically that is where, for whatever reason, you'll be flying super high up in the sky and try to land on someone's head with a pump shotgun to one-shot them. Now, over the last few seasons, there's been a few ways to do this. It really kind of became popularized in the Marvel season, where you would use the Silver Surfer mythic to try and pop a rift, fly through the sky, wait until you're right above an enemy, and then you would drop on their heads with the pump shotgun. It's worked in a bunch of different ways, and honestly, the thing is, it's effective. Enemies literally never hear you coming. A lot of the time, even if you don't nail the one pump, you still get an insane amount of damage and then can easily finish enemies off. So in terms of how specky this is, it ranks pretty high because you're dropping out of the sky. In terms of how effective it is, it also ranks really high. And in terms of how easy it is to do, I mean, honestly, a lot of the time you just need a couple of basic items you could find pretty much anywhere. That said, I don't think it is the craziest meme strategy out there. And honestly, because of how good it is, I almost struggle to call it a meme strategy. That said, it is so fun and it works so well. So we're going to chuck this up on B tier. All right, now let's deal with what I personally reckon is the single most broken meme strategy that has ever existed in Fortnite. And the fact that Epic never fixed this for an entire season, honestly, continues to blow my mind. I would literally at the start of every single stream go and do this exact meme just to remind everyone that Epic still hadn't fixed it. And as long as you didn't do anything really, really stupid, it was literally a guaranteed win. And we are talking about 0-point heal memes. Now, for those of you who forget, in the Bounty Hunter season, there was a 0 point floating in the middle of the map. And every single time you went through the 0 point, it would heal you up. Now, obviously, this thing was floating in the middle of the sky and it would launch you out once you went through it. So the idea was that you'd only be able to glide through it once and then get launched away and then have a bit of extra health. However, people discovered two strategies you could use that absolutely broke the 0 point. The first one was building a ton of materials around it. So when you were launched out, you would land on the materials and then simply walk back. Now, eventually Epic actually did fix that one by making it break materials around the 0 point. However, they never fixed the second meme strategy where you would use the Mandalorian sniper rifle combined with the jetpack to constantly dash back and forward into the 0 point literally all game. Now, the amount of heals you could get from this was so insane you could even out heal the final storm. Meaning that as long as you kept darting back and forward and didn't miss one of your charges, you literally could not lose. And for some reason, Epic never fixed it. Now, in terms of effectiveness, this is arguably the single most guaranteed win meme strategy that has ever existed. In terms of how easy it was to do, you literally only needed 2 items, both of which you got from taking out the Mandalorian. But where I am gonna hold it up a little bit is how specky it was, because honestly, a lot of the time pulling off this meme strategy was just 10 minutes of constantly dashing back into the 0 point, after which you would get pretty bored. That said, for being just the single highest win rate meme strategy on this list, and also one that somehow Epic never fixed, I do have to give it the A tier ranking. It loses a few points for that repetitiveness and how boring it could be, but just the fact that you would literally almost never lose doing it makes it kind of one of the craziest things in this ranking. All right, we've talked about a lot of good memes. Now I think it's time for one of my less favorite ones, which is gonna be camping in the mothership. Now you guys probably remember we did this last season. The idea being that you enter the mothership and then instead of going after the orbs to upgrade your loot, you just collect time orbs to stay in the mothership as long as you can. Now, Epic obviously for once actually thought of this meme strat before we broke the game with it, and because of that, they both limited the total time you could build up on your backpack to 2 minutes, and eventually would make all of the time orbs disappear so you couldn't keep restocking. That said, it was pretty boring. It definitely wasn't the most effective meme strat ever. And honestly, it was pretty annoying to do because chasing after orbs while constantly getting shot by people is not a good time. And honestly, I am going to put the mothership camping meme down at F tier because while I did try it out of desperation and I wanted it to work so badly, it kind of sucked. All right, now it's time for what I would consider the most classic meme of Fortnite Chapter 2. This was pretty much the first meme strat that we discovered in Chapter 2 and absolutely had a blast with. And that is the Waterfall floor trap. Now, obviously, there is that large waterfall right after you exit Lazy Lake. And pretty early on into Season 1 of Fortnite Chapter 2, people figured out that if you put a floor at the bottom of the waterfall, people would simply dive off and absolutely pancake on the builds below because there's no water to land in. Now, this meme was incredibly easy to do. You only needed about 200 to 300 materials. It also looked hilarious watching someone fully dive off that much height and then just panic mid-air before smacking into the ground. Now, it does lose a couple of points for effectiveness because especially these days, not that many people go diving off the waterfall. But that said, it does rank pretty highly in our other two categories. We're going to be chucking this up as another A tier meme. A little bit of that is for the nostalgia of being our first Chapter 1 meme strat, but also you can't deny the waterfall floor is pretty good. All right, though, let's jump back to another OG meme strat. And this one is going to be mushroom hiding. Now, I can't actually claim to have thought of this meme idea, as I'm pretty sure this idea originally surfaced in a Reddit post, and then Lockie made a video on it, and then I made one after him. Now, around the Fortnite map, there used to be these giant mushrooms. They don't exist in the game anymore, and it's because of this exact meme strat. Now, people figured out if you wore the raptor skin that had a yellow head, the same color as the mushroom, you could fit almost your entire character model inside it to then pop out and surprise enemies. You could lie loot next to pretty much any of the mushrooms that were this size on the map. People would just walk up to you and you could get a free one pump in the head. So honestly, it was easy to pull off. It was super effective. The only downside was it could be a little bit boring waiting inside a mushroom for an entire round so an enemy would rock up. But that said, we're still going to give it that A tier ranking because the OG nostalgia and just how simple it was makes it one of my all-time favorite memes. All right, now obviously this season, Kevin is back on the map, and not just Kevin. There's a lot of Kevins or a lot of different cubes. I don't know what we're calling them all these days, but Kevin memes have been something that we have done ever since he originated in the game. And back when Kevin first arrived, if you shot at the cube, it would unleash an angry bolt of lightning at a random player around it, which would both damage them and send them absolutely flying. Over the years, we've done a couple of videos where we use that lightning effect to both get Kevin to zap enemies to death as we just sit away at a distance, making him angry, as well as using it to launch people up in the air to take fall damage. And in honestly one of my favorite video moments ever, I also used the cube in combination with a low gravity pad to launch myself from Loot Lake all the way off the side of the map. And if that wasn't crazy enough, I even hit tires as I was leaving to go flying out into the water. Honestly, one of my all-time favorite meme test moments. Now, obviously, zapping people for like 20 damage at a time wasn't that effective, and you can't actually do the Kevin memes anymore because they don't zap people. So because of that, I'm going to be chucking Kevin memes down at D tier. Honestly, it was kind of cool just getting the free lightning strike hits on people, but you didn't get that many elims. It took a lot of ammo. It took a lot of time. And honestly, you can't even do it in the game anymore. So it's got to lose a few points. Speaking of memes you can't do in the game anymore, next up, let's deal with hiding in airdrops. Now, this was another one of the most OG memes that Epic patched out of the game relatively quickly. I think it still took him a couple of months. Now, obviously these days, if you stand under an airdrop as it's coming down, it kind of awkwardly glitches on top of your head and doesn't touch the ground. But back in the day, you could actually crouch directly under the path of an airdrop and the box would completely cover your character. Meaning that when an unsuspecting enemy walked by to open what they thought was going to be a box containing free loot, they got not only loot, but also you with a shotgun pointed at their face to quickly eliminate them. Now, obviously, this meme was pretty easy to do. You find any airdrop in the game and just hide under it. In terms of how specky it was, even though it was a little bit boring hiding inside a box where you couldn't see anything for about 5 minutes as you wait for an enemy to come, just the fact that someone was walking up to this box expecting it to contain good loot when in reality they open it and get the surprise of their life as an enemy jumps out makes this one of my all-time favorite meme strats, and I'm actually going to chuck it all the way up at S tier. This was one of the memes that actually got me into doing dumb stuff like this over the next few years. And honestly, because of that, it holds a very special place in my heart. And you know what? Let's stick with the theme of airdrop traps here, and let's talk about the Cuttlefish trap. Now, if you don't remember how Cuttlefish work, basically you throw them on the ground and when an enemy gets near, they activate, go flying towards them and explode in their face. Now, the idea with this meme was pretty simple. We put a bunch of them beneath an airdrop, someone goes to open the airdrop, the Cuttlefish spring out and absolutely detonate them. Now, while I did get this to work a couple of times, unfortunately, it was a little bit glitchy. The Cuttlefish were pretty unreliable, and about 80 to 90% of the time, you would spend 10 minutes fishing for Cuttlefish, and then they either would get spotted out by the enemy, or they would just fail to deal any damage. It was honestly really hard to figure out. Now, I've spent a long time doing this meme because I wanted to get footage for the video because it was pretty funny when it worked, but in terms of how effective it was, it ranked very low. In terms of how spectacular it was, it also ranked pretty low. And in terms of how annoying it was to pull off, let me tell you, finding big stacks of Cuttlefish when they first came out was not easy. So the Cuttlefish trap is going to be going down as our first E-tier meme strategy. All right, next up, let's do max height helicopters. Now, when the helicopter first got added at the start of a brand new season, for whatever reason, they made almost no audio for people beneath when they were hovering at absolute max height, meaning it was pretty much a free way to skybase to the final circle. Now, as the season went on, people ended up picking up this meme strat more and it didn't work nearly as well. But when I first did it in our very first attempt at this, we managed to hide the helicopter all the way until the final zone, meaning there was this beautiful shot of the helicopter just hovering inside the tiny storm. It ended up getting shot down and spinning as it was going. I jumped out, went for the thunder pump, and as per usual, completely missed. So yeah, honestly, a meme strat that wasn't as effective anymore, but that first time I tried pulling it off was definitely very, very spectacular. And it's also pretty easy to do. You just sit there for the entire round until the final circle comes and something cool happens. That said, not super effective in terms of getting the win, especially now considering helicopters immediately blow up after getting destroyed. We're definitely going to be chucking this as a D tier meme strategy. Very specky when it goes well, however, not that effective and a little bit boring. All right, now for another chapter 2 meme, we're going to talk about healing inside the storm. Now, this is one that I feel like pretty much every single YouTuber I know has done. And the idea is pretty simple. You harvest enough med items, whether or not that's corn or fish or cabbages or just med kits, and you try to sit inside the storm for as long as you can. Hopefully so long that the entire circle closes and the final enemies die while you're still healing from fish or fruit. And I think what always amazed me about it was how close you would get to winning so much of the time, and then you would run out of fish with just a few seconds left before you would win. It was literally almost like it was scripted. But every now and again, you would manage to out-heal the enemy, and when you did, it was one of the most satisfying things that you would ever see. I'm going to be giving the healing in the storm meme a B tier rating. All right, it's time for another all-time classic, and that is going to be hiding as a skin. Now, this is a pretty broad category, and we've done it in a lot of different ways over the years. Everything from being a green soldier hiding up against a bush and then popping out to surprise people, to being a Halloween skin or a Christmas skin hiding in one of the stores. Long story short, the idea is you try to blend in as a prop or just fully blend into your environment with whatever you're wearing. And I don't think there's any better feeling than watching an enemy stand right in front of you and not realize that you're an enemy who could take them out at any second. Now, granted, this strat was super hit or miss. Sometimes it would work in some of the most ridiculous situations that you couldn't even believe. And other times you would get spotted out from a mile away. But the point was, every time it worked, it was amazing. We've also done it over so many different categories, so many different seasons. And honestly, at this point, it feels like one of my biggest meme strategy traditions. So we're going to be chucking it up at S tier because skin hiding and skin memes is a classic. And the best part is, I feel like it's kind of here to stay. Another hiding meme was when we used to hide inside the Snowman item and then pop out when an enemy got near. Now, the good thing was Snowmen would get thrown all over the place, and most of the time, people really didn't expect people to just sit inside them waiting to assassinate an enemy. That said, it was a little bit basic. I feel like it didn't have that much creativity or flair behind it. So Snowman memes are going to be going down as an E tier meme strategy. Again, very satisfying when it worked, but not that creative and not that cool. And you know what? Sticking with that theme, hiding as a prop as well is something we've done quite a bit over the last season, but I think we're gonna have to be chucking that down as E tier as well. It's super cool when it works, but also, again, not that creative, and it's almost a meme strategy that Epic deliberately put into the game. And if Epic wants you to do a meme strategy, is it really a meme strategy? All right, our next meme is one that I've really only done once or twice, but when I did do it, it did feel kind of crazy. And that is moving at absolute max speed. Now, this is when you would get a whole bunch of speed increasing items, consume them and hold them all at the same time, and move like a literal bullet. Now, I think the fastest we ever got with this was back in the Marvel season using Wolverine claws, chilies, spicy fish, and I think a couple of other items on top of that. Now, this meme was super hard to pull off. You had to collect a bunch of different items to make it work. But when you finally did get it working, the feeling of dodging between bullets as your enemies physically can't keep track of you as you're running towards them until finally you smash through their box and take them out. It was a really awesome feeling. The only sad thing is you could normally only do it once or twice during a round because there just weren't that many consumables around that meant you could keep it going. So fast running memes, we're going to give them a C tier category rating. Honestly, pretty good, but not what you'd call a classic, and definitely not one that I've done that many times. All right, but again, speaking of classics, we've got another absolutely beautiful OG meme coming in. This is a meme that you would almost never do these days for very obvious reasons, and that is the C4 bridge strat. Now, the way this worked is simple. You find a very large gorge that has a mountain on each side. You build a bridge between them that is just high enough that it would trigger fall damage. You then C4 each end of the bridge, and as soon as someone goes to cross the gorge over your conveniently placed bridge, you detonate each side and watch them panic as the bridge collapses and they fall to their death. In terms of logistics, this meme was a nightmare. You needed to both get C4, get materials to build a bridge, build the bridge without you getting shot down from it as well, and then C4 each side, and then hope an enemy rocked up and decided to cross this totally not suspicious looking structure. That said, I have two absolutely beautiful memories of pulling this off. Once near the river by Tilted Towers, where you just slowly watch this bridge collapse from either side as this poor default falls to his death, and another time over by the river closer to Tomato Town. And both of those are just such beautiful memories in my mind. I am gonna have to give this an A tier rating. We can't quite put it up at S tier because it's just not that applicable these days. But that said, it is one of my all-time great meme strat memories, and I gotta put it a pretty high up rating. All right, it's time for a speed round. We're gonna categorize some of these less A-grade memes to get them out of the way. Shockwaving vehicles was very cool, and I actually had a couple of moments where I hit some ridiculous ridiculous trick shots with the twins by doing it. And then using it to launch enemies into the zone as well was just kind of ridiculous, mainly because of the confusion it would instill in your enemies. That said, it was only in game for a short amount of time, and it was also kind of hard to pull off. So that's going to be definitely another E tier meme strategy for our list. Speaking of less good meme strategies, we're also going to put abductions down at D tier. Now, mainly what we're talking about with abductions is when we would quickly get a UFO at the start of a round, grab an enemy before they got a gun, and then just take them out to the ocean and leave them there, as they can't do a single thing to stop you. Now, it's kind of hilarious the first couple of times you do it, as this enemy just comes to the realization they are totally helpless. But after a bit, even I started to feel a little bit bad about what I was doing, and because of that, I can't rank it that high. Another quick fire, inflatable memes. Honestly, we used it to do some pretty fun stuff, everything from thunder pumping on enemies to falling off sky bases. But at the end of the day, again, it was kind of a meme that Epic wanted you to do, and because of that, we're gonna put that at F tier. And now our final quick fire meme, as much as it pains me to do it, airdrop riding. This was something we used to do way back in the day, where you would try and land on top of an airdrop mid-air and then shoot people off it. Now, on one hand, this was kind of cool and it did feel totally spectacular. That said, riding airdrops has always been a bit of a glitchy experience, and a lot of the time, it was pretty easy to slide off and fall to your death. And on top of all that, a lot of the time, actually hitting shots while you're riding an airdrop down to the ground was a pretty hard thing to do. So because of all those, we're gonna be chucking airdrop riding as a D tier meme strategy. All right, now this next meme we're gonna tackle is one that I think I've wanted more than anything else for it to work so badly, but unfortunately it never quite realized the dream I had, and that is NPC armies. Now, I first attempted this all the way back when zombies were added to the game in Fortnite Chapter 1. The idea was that you run around the map getting as many zombies as you possibly could to get angry at you, start following you, and eventually you would build up a giant following of 100 zombies that you could then set onto your enemies and absolutely ruin them. Now, I did actually get this meme to work semi-well when I first tried. I reckon we built up an army of 20 or 30. However, unfortunately, they would glitch out, they would get stuck on various objects, and honestly, at the end of the day, your enemies could just kind of run away from them pretty easily. That said, I do think we ended up getting a few elims, and the concept is still awesome, and I'm determined to make it work one day, so we're gonna be giving it a C tier rating. Now, speaking of awesome concepts, next up, we're gonna do gliding all game, which I basically see as the much better, much cooler and more awesome version of the mothership camping meme. And the goal is pretty simple. It's in the name. It's to go from rift to rift to rift all around the map and try to get all the way to a final zone without touching the ground. In Chapter 2, during the Marvel season, I managed to stay in the air until there were only 2 enemies left, at which point we dropped down, got a couple of weapons, and secured the dub. One of the main reasons I love this one is because there's this incredible intensity that stays through the whole round as you're praying to spot another rift in the distance. You're praying that you can glide just far enough to reach it. And you're absolutely praying that your enemies don't use them all so that you can stay in the air. Now, it definitely took a long time to execute, and the number of failed rounds where you'd get almost all the way to the end and then just completely run out with nowhere to go was a little bit heartbreaking. That said, though, it was so cool when you finally pulled it off, and because of that, we're going to be giving it a B tier rate. All right, now, guys, we're getting down to some of the final memes, and we're going to get one last average meme out of the way, which is hiding with shadow cubes. Now, obviously, when you turn into a ghost, if you stand still, you do become basically invisible. However, again, Epic thought of this, and it was their idea. So because of that, I refuse to consider it a very cool meme strat. The best meme strats are the ones that Epic has to patch out of the game because they're so broken. And because of that, hiding as a shadow cube, although fun when you surprise people, we're giving that F tier. But all right, we're down to our final 6 memes, and almost all of these are pretty damn funny. And first of our final 6, we're gonna go with launchpad traps. Now, this first, I believe, cropped up on Twitch as a strategy people would do. And over the early seasons of Fortnite, definitely from about season 2 to season 4, this was one of the most common things that you would see both me and Twitch streamers attempt. The idea was simple. You build a tower with a launch pad at the bottom and traps at the top of the tower. Enemies come along thinking they're going to use the launch pad to fly into zone, when in reality, there is a roof at the top of the tower they smack into and then get absolutely annihilated by traps. Now, when you pulled this off, it was one of the most satisfying, one of the most incredible memes to ever exist. Unfortunately, a lot of the time, and especially after it became a little bit more famous, enemies would spot it out and they would destroy it pretty quickly. That said, it's got to get huge points for being one of the most OG, one of the original, and one of the classic memes that took over Fortnite and kind of made doing dumb things in this game popular. So because of that, it's going to get an A tier rating from me. Next up, we've got hiding in the sand, which obviously during the bounty hunter season was when you would leave a pile of loot, go underground, and then use the sand as a way to camouflage next to the loot, pop out, and annihilate people. Now, this was actually way more effective than a lot of the other hiding strategies that existed, because you could almost fit the entire bump of sand that stuck out as you were hiding under the loot, meaning that enemies would never really spot you out. And when you did this with 2 or 3 people, it was some of the funniest things going that season. That said, it wasn't crazily creative and it didn't fully break the game. So because of that, it's going to be a C tier meme. All right, 4 memes to go. And next we're going to talk about Tsunami sky bases. This one's pretty self-explanatory. When the Tsunami zone surrounded the map, you could build a sky base over the top of it. And effectively, it was just like normal sky basing, but you were infinitely harder to spot. Now, this meme was made cooler not only by how much more effective it was than a normal sky base, but also just how awesome everything looked from up the top of the Tsunami. I also remember getting some pretty epic snipes from up there, so because of that, it's gonna get a B tier rating. We can't chuck it all the way up there with sky bases because, to be honest, it's kind of just a rip-off of the OG. That said, though, the Tsunami zone was one of the coolest things I think Epic ever did as a limited time in-game thing. And because of that, I do love it. Our third last meme to categorize is Harpoons. Now, obviously these days, Harpoons as a function are a lot more common. When you literally had the mythic symbiote for the first month of this season, terrorizing people, pulling them into whatever you want. But back in the day, one of the funniest things to do was to set a trap up in a really obvious place. An enemy would see it, and obviously they would stand there laughing at your pathetic attempt to trap them. However, that's when you'd whip out the harpoon, shoot them with it, pull them into the trap, and absolutely ruin their day. And this meme gets a lot of bonus points from me because there's nothing better than an enemy thinking they figured out your meme strat just to have it absolutely turn around and go the wrong way for them. So because of that, harpoon memes, we're chucking them at a B tier strat. All right, second last is going to be one that is an absolute favorite of mine, which is using the Vault Shield with the Grabatron. Now, obviously, we only did this in a single video, but this was a meme strat that I thought was very much going to be just that, a dumb meme that I was going to have to do for hours and hours and hours to even get a little bit of footage where it looked good. But no, the Vault Door meme was crazy. Not only did it block every single bullet that people shot towards you, if you threw it at an enemy as they tried to finally advance on you and get around the shield, it would hit them for over 100 damage, meaning you could follow it up with the quickest finish you will ever get. This meme ranks high, not only because it was funny to watch your enemies get frustrated, but also just because it seriously worked. And because of that, the Invincible Shield is going to be going up there and joining our other A tier memes. All right, now finally, we're going to be going back to an absolute OG classic, which is going to be trap memes. Now, This might sound broad, but back in the day, the most creative minds in Fortnite memeing, the most we could think of was how to drop people into traps. Now, this involved everything from just leaving a pile of loot in a room that had a trap on the ceiling, all the way to having what looked like a solid floor that you were phasing through that people would walk on, which would then drop them into a box filled with traps. Long story short, the versatility and the ways that we tried to find to get people to walk into traps unwillingly was pretty much limitless. And it definitely is one of the most classic OG memes to come out of this game. That said, it definitely wasn't the most specky, and a lot of your rounds were spent sitting around waiting. But for pure OG reasons, trap memes are gonna be sitting up at our A tier ranking. Now guys, this is where I decided to place everything for the Fortnite meme ranking list. If there's any memes you think I missed out on and I didn't include, let me know in the comments down below. Any memes you think I put in the wrong category, get angry, shout, tell me I'm wrong down in the comment section as well. But for now, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you legends in the next one. Bye-bye.